Kuyate, although here had class, so Hazli, she ya Ravis Henry Tashchine, Kia Anin Schnedo, my Tashki, Washington, Ashi Tashiche, Tramasai Dashinan. And the Shais in late East Salt that Nasha, when the Chinde is Cheto, Ahéhee, Chiaho, don't say it, for ye, I don't shake, could I say it, do kadishje inat ani neze ekashte ali ya jaen shledo shasahno do ya wehno kut ya denen shledo di kut ya ni bukha di denen la shlaich ikeda bukhash. Everybody understood?
Oh.
Usually I'll ask where people, if people knew where East Salt is, because most people, when I give this presentation, have never heard of where East Salt is. It's a forgotten community. We have two more East Salt over here. So it's great to have people who know that place. And I always say only cool people know where East Salt is out in New Mexico. Thank you for inviting me to come out here to be a part of this space. And the reason why I am here to share some perspectives and understanding, hopefully provide a better understanding of how we as Dine, as Navajo people, introduce ourselves and how we identify ourselves. And the importance of our clans, and then our purpose as human beings. So that's what I'm going to touch on here a little bit this evening. And thank you for those of you who introduced yourself earlier as we were waiting. And it's good to be able to share who you are. It's good to share where you're coming from. It's good to share your identity. It brings back a sense of pride, and it also sets a grounding and a foundation, a reminder of where you come from, of who you are. And that's the importance of this session here, to focus on the identity and how we introduce ourselves. And I wanted to start by how I introduced myself, how we all introduce ourselves. And in short, my introduction, Ravis Henry is my English given name. And then, like I mentioned, I'm originally from Alamo. I grew up in Chinle, Canyon de Chelly area most of my life. That's where most of my teachings come from. And currently I'm married in Shiprock, New Mexico. My wife and my son are from there. And I've been working with the National Park Service for 16 years. I've been apprenticing in our ceremonies for well over a decade or so. And I do blessing way ceremonies, Kanada, coming of age for the men and the women, expecting mothers for the all-night ceremony. I do that as well. And apprenticing under my uncle, Woody Sosi, who does a number of other ceremonies as well from Chinle. And I have been doing this type of consultation and storytelling and work with educators for over 10 years as well, going out to schools, organizations, and enlightening our youth to hopefully have a stronger sense of identity and to encourage them to want to learn more of our stories and our songs and our ceremonies and to speak our language too. That's a little bit about where I'm coming from. So, what I want to do for this evening is utilizing my own introduction, how I started off, how I introduced myself. I want to be able to break that down to help all of you understand the different aspects of our introduction, what it all means, what it represents, what we're sharing, what we're trying to get across to the listeners when we introduce ourselves in a specific way. And for many of us, if we've taken a Navajo language class, in grade school, high school, you might have you may have been given a piece of paper to fill in the blanks. That's what I remember in my high school Navajo language class. There was a piece of paper that they gave me where it says Ya'ate, blank space, Inishya, blank space, all the way down to fill in your clans, your name, where you're from, who's your mom, your dad, your grandparents, all of that. And I remember filling that out and being taught how to introduce myself from home and then again in school. But it wasn't until later on I actually realized what we were actually doing. Because many of us, we don't think about it. Many of us, we just are trained to introduce ourselves a specific way. And I don't want to put down any of our royalties, but it's very common. It sounds like someone just pushes play and it's repetitive. And you hear that a lot from royalties across Navajo Nation, like the Miss Navajo and other pageantries that are out there. You can really hear it when they introduce themselves. It's like it's on auto-tune. You just get up there, give them the mic, and it's straight, right? And I want to be able to make sure that when you speak, it's not like auto-tune. It's more personal. It's more realistic. And when you're speaking and you're sharing that information, I want you to be able to know what you're really sharing when you introduce yourself. So that's what I'm going to take us through for the next 45 minutes or so in this evening session, is talking about how and why we introduce ourselves. And the first one I want to start with is that first Navajo Dene word that I shared at the very beginning of my introduction. Do you guys know what that word is? Ya'ate. You guys all say that? Say Ya'ate. You guys sound really lazy. No, Ya'ate.
Ya'ate.
Everybody, one more time. Ya'ate.
Ya'ate.
Okay. Good thing we don't have any John Wayne speakers in here. John Wayne speakers were taught to say Ahéhee. You hear it all over the place. Ya'ate is how we say this word. What does this word mean? Yeah, right. Okay, good. So I'm going to try to do Ya'ate. Pretty good. Most of the time when I share this with kids, they'll be like, Ya'ate means hello. The average Navajo speaker out there will say, Ya'ate means hello. That's what it means, kind of end of conversation. But Ya'ate doesn't mean hello. When we say Ya'ate, it actually means something more powerful, meaningful. It's a very deep expression when we say Ya'ate. And that very first part of the word, Ya'ate, is Ya. And when we say Ya and Ya'ate, we're talking about everything that's around us. The air, the wind, and then going above us, everything that's above us. The bird life, the insects with the wings, all the way up above everything that's around us, the clouds, the rain, the snow, the lightning, the thunder, and then beyond that to the blue sky, the sun, the moon, and then even further up, back into the darkness, where the stars, the Milky Way, all of that collectively lives. Together we call it Ahéhee. Ahéhee. And that, in short, references the sky. And then we identify as Ahéhee or Ahéhee Shitha, which would translate to Father Sky. So when we say Ya'ate, that first part of the word Ya is talking about everything above us that's a part of the sky. The second part of the word Ya'ate is Ate, and that's everything around us that's beneath us. Everything beneath our feet. Ata, Ahéhee, the things that are physically in our surrounding, our nature. Talking about the ground beneath our feet, the sand, the rocks, the pebbles, the plant life, the trees, the animals, the insects, the rivers, the mountains, all of it. Everything that's around us. That's what we're referencing, and it's a part of what we call Nohostan, or Nahastan, or Nehostan, however we're taught to pronounce it. It references Shamanastan, which we translate to Mother Earth. Nahastan is the earth. Shema is our mother. And when we say the word Ya'ateh, can you guys say it one more time? Say Ya'ateh.
Ya'ateh.
When you say it, you're bringing together Mother Earth and Father Sky. They're already there, you're just making that recognition known. And you're honoring it by bringing them together. And it's like for that brief moment, when you say Ya'ateh, everything is perfect between the hands of Mother Earth and Father Sky. Everything is so perfect, everything is beautiful, everything is harmonious, everything is balanced, and everything is good. And when we say Ya'ateh, that's what we're sharing and expressing and saying that everything between Father Sky and Mother Earth and everything that's around us is good with me. And everything that's good with me shall be good with you. That's what we're expressing when we say Ya'ateh. So say it for me one more time. Say Ya'ateh.
Ya'ateh.
Now you know the meaning of it. You can't be lazy and cheap and say Ya'ateh. You have to express it. It's a sign of goodness, bringing Mother Earth and Father Sky and recognizing your place in this world. So when you say Ya'ateh, you're supposed to take a deep breath and express it like you truly mean it. So one more time, take a deep breath and let it out. Ya'ateh.
Ya'ateh.
All right. And when we introduce ourselves and when we speak and see someone again, when we say Ya'ateh, we usually go up and shake hands. That's custom amongst our people, as Navajo people. And when we shake hands, it's a sign of respect, but it's also a sharing of energy. When I talk to the young kids, I share with them different ways that we do this. One of the ways that makes sense for them is the movies. How many of you guys have seen the movie Avatar? The blue people Avatar, the aliens or whatever you want to call them. Everyone know what I'm talking about? When those avatars are connecting with each other or connecting with their surroundings or their animals, what do? How? Their hair, right? They have their tea is really long, and then at the end of their hair, there's these tiny little tentacles, right? And then when they're connecting to the tree, they connect it to the tree's tentacles, and then when they're connecting to the animal, they bring it together. And when they're connecting with each other, they also connect that. We do that too. We're just not blue and we just don't have physical tentacles that you can see. For us, it's in our hands. So when you shake hands, you're sharing energy. You're bringing your energy to theirs and theirs to yours, sharing that goodness, that sign of respect. So when you shake hands as Navajo, you're supposed to shake firmly with palm to palm. That way that energy is shared. Some of us, we get scared or aggressive. Sometimes when you shake hands, they just put their hands out like this, and they just want you to touch their fingers. That's not a handshake. Others are really aggressive. The ranchers, they come up to you and they really grab your hand and they're like ready to break your fingers. That's not a handshake. A nice, respectful handshake and the sharing of energy is bringing your palms together, locking your thumbs and your fingers, and saying Ya'ateh. That's how we share that energy. That's how our hands are powerful. That's why they say take care of your hands, take care of how you move about this world. Don't hit or use your hands to hurt anybody. Tip. Be careful. So that's part of how we introduce ourselves. We always start off with a greeting, sharing goodness by saying Ya'ateh. And Ya'ateh is just one word we use as a greeting, but it also can be used in a variety of different ways. When you do something good, it also means Ya'ateh. We're talking about the weather. When you say it's good outside too. And then if you have some elders, you may recall them when you're leaving after spending the weekend at grandma's house. You're getting ready to part ways. Grandma doesn't say goodbye. They come up to you, oh, Ya'ateh, they say Ya'ateh again at the end. Ahéhee, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. And then they might say Hagooneh, which doesn't mean goodbye. It means until the next time again. Until our journeys cross again. That's what we're talking about. So that's what that word means, Ya'ateh. It's a sense of goodness. It's recognizing our place in the world, bringing in all that good energy into us, and then sharing that and expressing it. That's what we're doing when we say Ya'ateh. That's how we always start with our introduction, by sharing that goodness and saying Ya'ateh. After that, on my sheet in high school, it was Ya'ateh, and then you fill in the blanks for your name. Some of us are taught to share our clans first, before our names. And then some of us don't even say our names at all. If you say your name too much, they say that your ears are going to dry up, shrivel up, and then they're going to fall off. How many of you have heard that before? Don't say your name too much. It's a sign of, it's a respect for yourself, not to put yourself out there. Be humble is the teaching behind it. Don't put your name out there too much. But in today's world, it's all over the place, right? It's on TikTok, on Snapchat, on Facebook. And then we introduce ourselves. And then we end up saying what we're taught, fill in the blanks, Yinnishye. Right? That's how I was taught growing up in school, was Yinnishye. My name, Yinnishye. Right? And Yinnishye translates to literally that. My name is. Right? Yinnishye. And when you say it, can you guys all say Yinnishye?
Yinnishye.
And then one more time, but I want you to pay attention to your tongue and the movements in your mouth when you say Yinnishye. Say it for me. It almost feels like a slingshot in your tongue, how that word is just being shot out. You can think of it like an arrow being shot out of your mouth. Yinnishye. And the way that sound and demeanor of how it's used, it almost makes it to like you're standing on a podium and then you're above everybody else, like the president of the Navajo Nation, and everybody looks up to you. You say Yinnishye. That's how it kind of comes out, and it's an arrow that pierces all the ears of its listeners. And I was taught by my uncle later on that don't say that Yinnishye. When you do that, you are putting yourself up there. There's going back to that teaching of remain humble. And what I have been taught, and I share now, is the other word that's up here, Dashijinne. Can you guys say that? Say Dashijinne. When you say that, it kind of just rolls out of your mouth. The word just rolls off your tongue. It's not as harsh, it's not as piercing as the word Yinnishye. But by saying Dashijinne, when I say that, Ravis Henry Dashijinne, what I mean by this is that every single one of you in here call me by this, Ravis Henry. But I'm also saying that everyone else in here we can't see, everyone sitting in these empty chairs can also call me Ravis Henry. The plants, the insects, the mice that's running around on top of us in the ceiling, the spiders that are making a web somewhere in the building, they're also listening, and they too can call me Ravis Henry. That's what that word also means, Dashijinne. It's bringing everything together, and it's like the way we are right now. We're all sitting at the same level. You can also think of it like in a hogan. When we're sitting in the hogan, we're all on the same floor. No one's higher or lower or above any other person. We're all equal. So that's the word Dashijinne. They call me. So that is how I introduce myself. I started by saying Ya'ateh, Ravis Henry Dashijinne. And then We move into our clans. Ahéhee. Ahéhee is our clans, and it's a part of our identity. There's a really beautiful story about the clans and how the clans came to be. How many of you have heard the story of the clans? Anybody know where they're coming from? In short, the short version of the story, our clans come from a Ahéhee, changing woman. And this story takes place in all of our stories. We have so many. There's a time period when the monsters were destroyed and peace and harmony was brought back to the world for our people for a time. During that time of balance and harmony, Ahéhee had journeyed to the west, and she decided to make her home somewhere way out towards the west, across the big waters. So the story says that she left the Netcha. She went all the way to Doko, stayed, and she left the Netcha going west. Then she reached the ocean, Tontier. And then from there, she took a rainbow and she journeyed way out further west. Somewhere way out there, she made her home in a beautiful place on a mountain, covered in flowers and green vegetation and rainbows and mists. And there where she lived, she had a beautiful home. But Ahéhee ended up living in a place all alone. It said that she was asked to move out there by Ahéhee, the sun barrier. And the sun barrier is the one that made the home for her. But Ahéhee was too busy carrying that sun, the crystal, across the sky every day for us. And by the time he got home, he slept and he woke and started the process over again. That Ahéhee never got to see him. So in that, she began to get lonely. And that loneliness she was experiencing began to cause illness to come over her. She began to get sick. She began to have depression and anxiety. And she began to miss her family, her children, everybody here on within the four sacred mountains. She didn't have anyone to talk to. She had no one to cry with, no one to comfort her. And amidst all of that loneliness, that sadness, that depression, that sickness that was overcoming her, she realized she wasn't in balance with herself. And she realized that she needed to correct it. She needed to do something for herself, not to remain in this sad, depressive state, but to get out of it. And in order to do that, she decided to make her own family. And she did so by using a part of her body to create her kin. So it said that Ahéhee decided to use the chin that was on her body. How many of you have heard the word chin? Everybody know what chin is? Out towards Western Agency, Tuba City, they say chin. Sounds weird to me, but they say chin over there. Over here, or where I was taught, chin with you. If you don't know what chin is, think back to the summer months, June, July, when it's really, really hot outside. 90 degrees, 95 degrees, and you want to go outside for a hike or go feed the sheep or go on a hike. You're out there or you're fixing the fences or you're just walking down the dusty dirt road and it's hot and you're starting to sweat. And as you start to sweat, a tiny little mantis of thisy, dust devil, builds up and starts chasing you and it overpowers you. And all that stage gets on you. But you don't care because it's hot, it's summer, and you're outside. And then by the time you get inside to your house, you get to the air conditioning, you feel good, you feel relaxed, but then you just feel ugly. Now we say ugly, right? That weird feeling of that sweat and that grime that built up on your body, and now you're inside, all you want to do is take a shower. That grime, that feeling on your skin, that's called chin. For some of us res kids, you can find it behind your ears, inside your ears, underneath your neck, your underarms, right here between your elbows. That's where it builds up. Or if you're wearing a bracelet, it builds up under your latsana. That's chin, all that black, dark brown layer of filth and dirt and sweat. That's what we call chin, but traditionally chin is actually a very sacred part of who you are. It's a mixture of your spirit with Mother Earth, Father Sky, and the wind spirit. And that chin is supposed to be taken care of properly. They say you're not supposed to just jump into the shower with it. You're supposed to rub it off and give it back to Mother Earth. Go into a sweat lodge and rub it, clean it off that way. They say that if you go to a shower or you let it drain and it spins, your thoughts are going to spin that way too. But that chin is what Asanat Lehe used. She grabbed the chin from her chest. She grabbed chin and she rolled them into balls. She began to talk to it. She began to pray about it. And she placed it down in front of her. And that chin that she placed in front of her became people. They became human beings like us. They looked like us. And when she made that first group of people out of that first chin from her chest, she called him her family. And then she called this group of chin that she made first, Kia Ani Dine, the towering house people. Then the second time she reached to her back, she grabbed chin from behind, from her back, between her shoulder blades, and that chin she created into two balls, and she placed it in front of her, and they became a second group of people. And she called this group Todachi Dine, the bitter water people. And then the third time, she reached underneath her armpit, her right armpit. She grabbed chin from over here, rolled them into balls, and she placed it down. And they became the third group. And she called them Hanavahni Dine, the one who wander people. Then the fourth and final time, she grabbed chin from her left armpit, rolled those into tiny balls, and she placed it down in front of her. And then she called that group of people Hashkishni Dine, the mud people. So these four groups of people that she created became her family. Kia Ani Dine, Todachi Dine, Hanavahni Dine, Alo Hashkishni Dine. They were people. And with these people, she was able to overcome her loneliness. She finally had people she can speak to, people she can cry with, people she can laugh with, people she can eat with, people who would be able to support her and support each other. And that became her healing powers to come out of that sickness she was feeling of sadness and depression and mourn and that imbalanced state that she was in. And as she was finally recovering and happy again, back here on Navajo land in Netzchatem, there was starting to be an imbalance amongst our people again. The monsters had been destroyed, but then we were ruining it for ourselves because there was no real social order for our people. There wasn't a way to live and care for one another outlined just yet. So there began to be a disconnect and an imbalance happening amongst our people here on Navajo land. And yet, as the twin warriors who had defeated the monsters began to notice this imbalance. And they began to think and talk with each other, like, how can we fix this? How can we tackle this situation? How can we make things better for our people? And then they couldn't come up with a solution, so they said, let's go to our mother. Maybe if we come to her and we find her, she might be able to have an answer for us. So that's when Nayenes left on another journey to move out west to locate their mother and find her. And when they finally did, they found her home and they came upon this beautiful place. They reacquainted with their mother, shared love, compassion with one another. They greeted each other. They hugged each other. Astanatla was so happy to see her children that eventually she also realized that they weren't just there to say hello. So she asked them, "Why are you here? What are you wanting? What are you looking for?" So Nayen is got to the point. And it's like this. This is what happened here on within the four sacred mountains. What can we do moving forward to fix this? And that's when Changing Woman shared with her boys her experience of that loneliness and depression. And in that, she created these people to become her family. And she said, these people right here, these families will help you. They'll help us. It'll help our people to bring peace and harmony, balance to be restored. And then she identified them as Adonne. And she said, these will be people that will be sent back to Navajo land within the four sacred mountains. And they will disperse themselves amongst the people to give them a sense of identity, a sense of belonging. And that will be carried on forward through the bloodlines. And it will be carried on and passed down through the women. And this is how balance and harmony will be restored. So she sent the two, or the four different clans back with protectors and leaders to guide them on their journey. When they sent them back on the rainbow, they landed at Doko Asleet, and then from there they moved east, dispersing themselves amongst the people. That first clan group, Kia'ani, they were given to the bear people, Shush, to be the guide, to be the protector. And then Torichini was given to the mountain lion, Nashtuitso. And then Hanagahi was given to, Torichini was given to the bull snake, Diyosh, the big bull snake without fangs. Some stories say they were given to the Maitso. So depending on which family you listen to and their stories, our stories say that the Torichini was given to the Diyosh, the bull snake. And then the Hanagahni was given to Nashtuitso, the mountain lion, as their protector. Then Hashishni was given to Dasana, the porcupine. And these four protectors guided each of these clan groups, these family groups, across Navajo land and slowly left them behind with different families, dispersing them, giving them a sense of identity, sense of belonging. And then each of these four clan groups was also given a gish, a cane, a staff that they utilized to help find water and to find locations across Navajo land where they could call home. And then each of these clan groups were also given different characteristics, different skills and abilities. And it said that when the Kia'ani group was first created, and Astanat Lehe looked at the Kia'ani people, so she came, Ashina, she came, and she said, Nihe Kia'ani danotlenigi natani danlido. The Kia'ani, the Tyrant House people, will be leaders. So it said that anybody who has the Kia'ani clan as part of their four have the ability to be leaders. They have the ability of leadership embedded with them, naturally. That doesn't mean that every Kia'ani is Da'atzotlen and stands up and takes the role of being a leader. It means that the person with that clan has the ability and characteristics of a natural leader, if they want to utilize it or not. Todichitni people, they became the the ones who ask questions, and seek answers, the educated ones, the wise ones. So they say that the Todachi people today are the smart ones. I think that's kind of true, because if you put a Kia'ani and a Todachi in the same class, I'm Kia'ani and I went to school with Todachi's, you give the Kia'anis a book to read, we're going to be stuck on the summary, the very first page of trying to understand what the book is. We read it and then our minds go somewhere else, and we have to reread it and start all over, then we forget what we're reading. Then we have to go like 10 times to read a page and we finally get it. By the time we finally finish the first chapter of this book, Todachinis have already completed their report. Todachini are smart people. I believe that most of the people today who have master's and doctorate degree, majority of them have Todachini in their clans. Not to say that the other clans aren't smart, they just have that ability of comprehension and questioning and observation to learn faster. Anéhee people, they have the ability of our medicines, the plant life, the ceremonies. They have those knowledge that they carry on, and so forth. But all of these clans, they were given characteristics. And then, as the 4 clans began to expand across the Netcha and different families, some of these families didn't really want to be Kia'ani, but they still have the same characteristics, the same lifestyle, the same teachings. They were basically the same people, they just didn't want to be called Kia'ani. So they were given a different name of Ziltani. And then some of them took other versions of it. Shashtanek Kia'ani, Kajitanek Kia'ani, Nadantanek Kia'ani, all these different versions, but they're all Kia'ani people. Same thing with Todachi. These different clan groups of Todachi took different names. Todachi, Bipatodi, and all these others that are a part of that. They're still the same clan, just have a different name, so they're merged into the same family group. And that began to increase the number of clans that our people have had. Same with Ahéhee. Ahéhee, Tatnasandi, To'ochane, and Hashkan. So they expanded the clan families, and more clans began to be created under different names. Then they would come across people who just didn't quite fit into these family dynamics. Some people just didn't fit into the Kia'ani group or the Todachi group. So that's when our people began to create new clans under a whole new family group based off of how they were observed in their birth or their origin, and how they came to the Netcha. That's where clans like To'ochene and Natredenek come, or other clan groups that we have. And then as we began to expand and as our population began to grow, and then we would meet with other tribes, then we have different clans again to identify those different tribal groups. So today, from the 4 original clans, we have over 100 different clans. And that's expanding now to eventually be hundreds and hundreds of clans, because even now we can say Bilagana is a clan, but underneath Bilagana there's so many different Bilaganas, right? There's English, there's Irish, there's Swedish, there's Norwegian, and all of those have a different name. So when I start to work with young people and they're learning, they might not be Navajo, but they're Bilagana and they're learning the clan system. When they just say Bilagana and Shli Bilagana, Bashashi Bilagana, Dashache Bilagana, Dashanada, I ask them, that doesn't sound right. Which one is it? So there's so much now in our clans that make up or what we utilize. And the whole idea of our clans is to establish social order for our people, to give us a sense of our identity. And it said that if you know your clans as Navajo, you can never say you're lonely in this world. Because, like the way they were created, it brings a sense of identity for our people, and a sense of kinship and family and relationship. That's what Ahéhee is about. Ahéhee in the clans. And the way the clans were situated is it's matrilineal. It's passed down from mother to daughter or mother to child. And eventually we were all given 4 clans to make up our identity. Our first clan, Tani Kliniki, is our mom's clan. That's who we are. Doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, you are your mother. You represent her first. She's the one that gave that first bit of life to us as she molded us inside of her womb. And by the time we were born and given to this world and took our first breath, that first love is given to our mother. So we carry our mother's identity first. Doesn't matter if you're a son or a daughter, you are your mom first. And they say if you draw a line down the center of your body, everything on the right side of your body, your right eye, your right ear, your right hand, your right leg, that's your mom. She's always with you. She's always with us. And we recognize that as we move forward. So my first clan, Ahéhee, Ani, and Shem. Our second clan, we say Bashish Chin, and that means who we are born for, where we are conceived from. And for that is our father. And for me, that's my Deshkizhni, Bashish Chin, which is the Coyote Path Havis people. And everything on the left side of my body is my dad, my father. He's always with me. Same with all of us. Everything on the left side of your body is your father. And that also goes back to the teachings of since everything on the right is our mother first, that's why we do everything with our right first. When you put on your clothes, you're supposed to put your right leg through your right pants first, your right arm through your right shirt first. When you're in ceremony, you always walk off with your right foot first, which made it hard for some of our traditional Navajo men when they went to the service. They had to step off with their left foot first. But it's always right first to give back to honoring who you're coming from, who you represent, and that's your mother. Our third clan comes from our paternal grandfather, Ahéhee, and that is actually our mother's second clan. Who our mother is born for, that becomes our Che. Maternal. Thank you for that. Maternal Iki is our Che. And that is who we identify as our third clan. So for me, that's Ahéhee, Che. And then our fourth clan, our paternal grandfather. So our father's father. Our father's second clan is our fourth clan. And that's how the clans are passed down to the children. So each of our clans come to us in that form. So we say, and then based off of the clans we have in the order that they are, connects us with everybody else in our family dynamics of these clan systems. How many of you said you were Kia'ani? 1, 2. Which one was Kia'ani? What clan? Your Che. So that automatically makes me your grandpa. So I'm your Che by clan. And our clans, age is no number. It doesn't exist. From the moment you are born and you're given your first breath and you've got your clans, you become someone's child, grandchild, someone's brother, someone's sister, you also become someone's mother or father. You're also automatically someone's grandma or grandpa. That's how our clans are situated. Kojishan, you say you're Kia'ani too.
I don't know, they said Big Bucket Besantine Kia'ani too, so.
That's your first one, then you're my sister. So that's how that dynamic works. And my second clan, Bashish Chinigiya, anybody in here might Deshkizhni? That also belongs to a family group. Okay? And that includes my Che and this one, Ahéhee. So anybody who is my Deshkizhni, Ahéhee, Tenjikinne, the Bethlehem, or Kentlitsotni. Any of these 5 clan groups are the same clan for me. And they are my dad's clan and my Chade's clan. That's how I connect to more people. And then my last clan is Khatnesani. And Khatnesani, like I mentioned, that group, Khatnesani, Hanagani, Tohane, Hashkan, Zoe, and then Ziftlani, sometimes are added into this group. So anybody that's part of this clan is related to me through my knowledge. And that's how we establish kinship. That's why with this clan, we have a family dynamic that spreads all across Navajo land. You can go to a city and introduce your clans and you'll have family over there. Go to Shiprock, go to Winter Rock. Go to Navajo Nation Fair and everywhere you look, you're gonna have relatives. Just because you know your clans. And it comes in handy when you're having big ceremonies or events. You express who you are and you ask for help. A family is created for that, to take care of one another, to support each other, to help one another in a time of need. And for me, I learned at a very young age in my life how important our clans are in this manner of and kinship. Being the oldest of 8 kids and being let go of my family to become a young adult and leaving my family behind was a big scare in my life. When I went to school, right after high school, I went to Northern Arizona University. I knew nobody in Flagstaff. I know nobody at the university. And when I got dropped off there as a scrawny res kid, I sat there outside the building on the bench waiting for everyone else to show up. And I was just scared, shy. And there was one family that walked up. And the lady, the mom of that family, looked over at me. The first words out of her mouth, Yateshiyaj. And that alone allowed for a sense of comfort. And I looked up and we began to talk and we greeted each other. And she asked for my clans, I gave it to her. She said, I see Shiyaj la Shinale, she said to me. I'm your grandma because she was the same clan through her cut and something. She became my grandmother. And from there, her daughter became a good friend of mine. And that just opened the door to so many different opportunities that in my young adult life, I got to know so many people. And now I have a lot of relatives all across Navajo land that I can call upon that aren't my blood family, not my immediate family, but family through my clan system. That I call upon and I ask for guidance, I seek help, and in return, I give guidance, I give help. We support each other. And that's how important our clans can be. And that's why they say, know your clans. Know where you're coming from. Share it. That way people know. So one of these days, you're not going to have your grandparents. One of these days, your parents are not going to be here. And it's going to feel like you have no one to depend on, no one to look to, no one to turn to. When that time comes, don't ever think that way because your clans allow you to have another mom, allow you to have another dad, to have more chase, to have more masanas, to have more knowledge. Feed off of that energy. That's how you move forward. And not get caught up in the sickness of war and suffering. Utilize your clans for that. And then going back to the clans and their characteristics, every clan has its own characteristics, has its own skill sets and abilities. And if you start to listen to the stories and observe the people of these clans, they'll start to make sense. My wife always teases Kia'anis are very Dazotlen because they think we're the first clan created. We can be leaders and do whatever we want. But that's not the case. But as Kia'ani people, it's important to know that you have the ability of leadership embedded within you. And you can utilize it if you want. My Deshkijni people, Ashihe people, that's my dad's clan. The people of this clan group are the people who have very harsh teachings. People of this clan group, if you have a relative or a grandparent in this clan, you'll know that when there's a foot of snow outside, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning, while you're still sleeping in your underwear, they're going to grab you and throw you outside that front door and make you roll around in snow. And you're crying and screaming outside in that freezing cold. They're going to lock the door on you until you spend enough time out there in the snow and they let you back in. That's my Deshiji people. The ones with the harsh teachings. They go right up into your face. If you do something bad, if you get yourself in trouble, they'll sit you right down and get up right into your face and tell you everything you did wrong. What's wrong with you? Why did you do that? I didn't raise you like this. They say that to you and they make you cry with all their harsh teachings, and as soon as they're done, they're going to look right at you and they say, I still love you. They come back around. That's what they call harsh love. But what I've learned about that clan group too of my dad's is they're also very caring people. They're people that are humble. My grandpa used to say, if you go to school, notice there's going to be a hallway through of students. One of them might be bullied, one of them might be hurt, one of them might be crying over in the corner. All these other students are going to keep going by. No one's going to want to help. They don't want to get involved. The one who sees that person sitting there crying, that's my Deshiji. They're the ones that's going to go over there and say, are you okay? Can I help you? That's the type of people my Deshiji tenjikin ashi in the message. Now that you know this, go ask your friends what their clans are, and if you hear that one of them has one of these clans, they'll probably notice that characteristic. My Nali's clan, Tatnasani, I like to pick on them because they're my wife. That's my wife's clan too. But I grew up with my Nalis on my dad's side growing up, and you never want to argue with them. You know anybody who's Tatnasani Tro Hanish Kanso or what's the other one I'm missing? Tohane. Any of these clan groups, you don't want to argue with them because you'll never win. You start an argument with them, they're not going to give up until you give up. Even in your right and they're wrong, they're going to keep arguing until you give in and get their way. That's that clan group. Never get an argument. You can be their best friend one day, and the next day they hate you. Then the next day they'll love you again. But the people of that clan group are also very dependent. If you ever need to get something done, if you have a big ceremony or if you have an event happening, make sure you tell the Tatnasani people, Hanarati people, Shkanzo people. They'll come together like an army and they'll make sure everybody is fed and everything is taken care of. That's the type of people they are. Tachitnis. Tachitnis are everywhere too. Tachitnis. I like to call them the Navajo blondes. Tachitnis. Right? In Western world, people who are just all over the place and kind of ditzy and crazy a little bit and forgetful and just all over the place, we call them blondes, right? Navajo blondes are Tachitnis. You ever know a Tachitni? They're all over the place. They're thinking about over here while they're talking about over here while they're trying to order food right here. Their mind is always wandering. But one thing about Tachitnis, they have beautiful voices. Tachitnis. You teach them a song, they're going to sing it, and they're going to sound like Mariah Carey or George Strait. I believe George Strait and Mariah Carey are Tachitnis. Tachitnis have that ability to learn songs too really well. If they don't have a beautiful voice, they can probably sing the whole lyrics. Because they're able to learn songs and music that way pretty well. That's Tachitni people. But all of these different clans have different characteristics, have different skills, have different stories. And that's also an important part of recognizing that kinship. If you know the clans and the stories and the characteristics, when you decide to run for president of the Navajo Nation, you know which clan to call upon to help you to get your point across, to get the leadership done properly. When you're creating your basketball team, you'll know which clan group is the defense team and which clan group could be the three-point shooter. You'll be able to bring that together, that dynamic of creating a team and these different characteristics of these clan groups. And then lastly, that reason why the clans exist is that social order. That's where most of us focus on. That's where most of us grew up hearing, know your clans, right? You hear things like no clans after 10, or what do they say? Clans don't matter after 10. Clans before plans. All of that, clans are important for the importance of our children and our grandchildren. Making sure your clans are not the same, especially your first clan is not the same as the person that you're deciding to live the rest of your life with. That's what they talk about. And it's not you you're going to hurt, it's your children, your grandchildren. And another way to think about it, if a Kia'ani marries a Kia'ani, this man over here married his sister. And together they have kids. That sounds ugly when you think about it. Incest, or these different terminologies that exist. And so it's important to make sure that the person that you're seeking an interest in isn't of the same clan, isn't your sister or your brother or your mom or your dad when you move forward. When you think about it that way, it's an ugly interaction. And that's how we ensure that our children, our offspring, our grandchildren are pure, are clean. Their bloodlines are not affected. And illness doesn't bother them. They used to say that some of these families that didn't follow the clans, that's where different things like mental disorders and other things came about with our children. It's because of what happened. And that's how the monsters were created, because of what the men and women were doing with each other. And that's how disruption occurred in the world, that the hero twins had to rebalance. So the clans were used to establish that social order as well. So the clans itself are the most important part of our introduction. When we start out with introducing ourselves by saying Ahéhee, those four right there is the most important part. And if you can share that, you're set. From there, our introduction continues. And then we include forward from Dine Shah. And when we say Dine Shah, it's not the apartment complex down on Central. It's not the dorm on South Campus or whatever you guys use over here. It's not Phoenix, Arizona. It's not Albuquerque, New Mexico, or Salt Lake City. Where you come from is where your mom comes from. Where your mom comes from is where her mom comes from. When our babies are first born in this world, when they're first born and brought into this world, they take their first breath. One of the first things that's done traditionally is that families would put kharadeen all over the baby. Then they would say, Ya Tesha, where? Sometimes the baby doesn't have a name yet. The first thing they do is they give the baby their clans. This is who you are. This is your dad. This is your che. These are your mom. And then they tell the baby, this is where you're from. And then a few days later, after birth, the parents will take the umbilical cord and the placenta from that baby back to where the mom is from. And they will bury it or place it somewhere around the homestead of the mothers, so that the child will be rooted to that place. That's why I say I'm originally from Alamo, New Mexico, because my dad was buried over there. Traditionally, they'll place that the tse or your placenta, sometimes they'll bury it near the home, or they'll put it in the cornfield, or they'll bury it in the sheep corral or the horse pen. Sometimes they'll tie it to the tail of the horse, or put it on a juniper tree, or put it in the ash pile somewhere around them. There's all these different teachings that families have, but the point is that you place it back around the mother's homestead, and that becomes your lifelong connection to where you're from. And no matter where you go in this world, you decide to move to China, when you're 65 years old and you decide to retire, you're going to turn back around and you say, I want to go home. Even though you lived in China for 50 years, your home is still placed where your mother is from. That's the importance of sharing where you come from. So it's important to recognize that and to share that. Because also, when you're introducing yourself and you're expressing your kinship with people, you might not be related by any of the 4 clans, but just by sharing where you come from, then you can share your grandparents' name. Oh, the Aiden Che. I know you're Che. And then you establish kinship that way through the people that know your family. And that goes back to sharing where you come. And then from there, after this is where people start to share who their mom, their dad is, their grandparents, their siblings, what they're going to school for, their age, all of that. All of that is up to you of how much you want to share. But the important part is this, that you share your clans, where you're originally from. Those are the important parts of our introduction. And lastly, if you heard how I introduced myself, I said, Nihoka di Nanapilash at the very end. How many of you have heard that term before? How many of you utilize this term? Say it with me. Nihoka diyin Nanapilash Ashlai. Nishlen. You guys all said you're going to give me $5. What we all said, when you said this, you were talking about yourself. You said, I am a 5-fingered spiritual being on this earth. There's a very beautiful story, unique story about how we were created. That's a story for a different time. But we were created by holy beings as 5-fingered people. To look like them, to move like them, to speak like them, to have the ability to heal like them. But unlike them, we were created to stay here, physically on this ground, on this earth. And the Dine we're allowed to move on to the next world. That's why we're 5-fingered spiritual beings. And in that, we were given the responsibility to keep and restore balance and harmony between all living things, from Mother Earth to Father Sky. It's our responsibility to make sure there's balance and harmony between the waters, the mountains, the rivers, the forests, from our homes to our neighbors' homes, to make sure that there's clean air, there's clean water, there's food, that our ceremonies and our teachings are being passed on, all so that our children and our grandchildren will have the opportunity to live in this world and have an easier, better life than us. And as 5-fingered spiritual beings, we should recognize that everything that we do right now is going to affect what happens in 2 hours. It's going to affect what happens tomorrow. And everything we do right now will have a rippling effect. It's going to affect our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. That's the understanding of the 5-fingered people. And it said that everything we do right now isn't just for us, but we live for our children, grandchildren, 6, 7 generations from now. Our prayers, our songs, the work that we do today, the lives that we make, is all so that one of these days our grandchildren, their grandchildren, are going to have the opportunity to live in this world. And it's going to be easier, it's going to be better for them. There's going to be clean air for them, clean water, plenty of food, Our ceremonies will still be here for them. Our teachings of the land and how to be human beings will still be here. Our songs will still be uttered and chanted. Our prayers or offerings will still be made. All of that, we live for them today to make sure that that's going to be available for them. That's what it means to be five-fingered people. We have the ability to heal, to restore balance when it's not there. That's where our teachings and our songs and our prayers come back into play to restore the balance. So that's what it means to be a five-fingered person. And that's what I conclude with all of my introductions by saying, and that's the short version of everything I shared when I introduced myself. When I said it, from Ya'at to the ending of sharing my name, my clans, where I'm from, all of that, everything that I've shared and have been expressing in the last 45 minutes is what you guys are all listening to and capturing when I introduce myself. And when someone else introduces themselves again, you're going to be listening for those same things and recognizing where they're coming from, who they are, what they represent. And then when you introduce yourself, that's all the information you're sharing, whether you think about it or not, by introducing yourself. There's so much knowledge that you're sharing with your listeners about who you are and where you're coming from. So it's important to know this information about yourself. Important to know where you're coming from. Important to know your clans. And when you speak it and when you express it, be proud of yourself. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of where you're coming from. Because somebody prayed for you to be here. Someone sang for you to be here. And now you need to do the same. Be proud of who you are and where you stand. And make sure you're setting a lasting impression so that your children and grandchildren will have something to look up to look forward to. Carry on what you're leaving behind. So that is the short version of what I wanted to get across this evening and share by utilizing how I introduce myself to each of you. There's so much more that we could touch on and elaborate and dissect, if you will, of what it all means and what it represents. All the way down to even where your family, your grandparents, your parents' names and so forth, all of that information. But in short, be proud to know who you are. Learn your clans if you don't know it. Research it. Don't go to Ancestry.com to figure out where you come from. Ask the questions of these clans and you'll know the origin of where you come from. I ramble on too much, but it would come upon that hour mark. So I want to say, thank you for listening to me up to this point. And I hope I've been able to provide a different perspective and some better understanding to each of you. And if you have any questions later or you want to talk a little bit more on this subject or any other topics, feel free to reach out to me. Give me a call, shoot me an email. You can also follow me to ceremonies or follow us to ceremonies where you can hear some more of these stories that exist, and how things came to be. Any questions? Comments, complaints, concerns, stories, rumors, jokes?
Kid. So there's one time I was listening to a Hatali Bethyashteko. Yan hit a don, shil yast. Ko a don, dinko dahulum. I'd say a dish, a ko at also a dish, a dot, a coco a flat no as ya be alyand, a basin. And it's like these four represent four different colors of dish. ko that's ya nihil be hodesh hudilneshi that's ko diegi ya ha badsin kes.
That goes back to the ceremonies. Teslikia.
Oh,
There's different phases, different stages of that blood.
oh.
Some of them will break it down to colors
Mm-hmm.
that they represent. Where it's coming from, right? The mother did, jab did, shape did, but when you think about it, Tesliki is coming off from a woman. Even though we say all of those are coming from their moms. So it's coming from a female. That's what our clans are, passed down through the matrilineal connections. And then the colors they talk about in the ceremonies. And I won't elaborate on that. You can go back to some of those athletes who understand those, and it goes back to songs and the offerings, ajo, how they connect the colors.
Okay.
Oh, there's a lot in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can go back to the one you heard it from and ask them again, because you can ask the same question to the same athlete 12 times. The answer is going to be different every single time. Any other questions?
Then she.
Dan or a Dan she.
Then she.
Well, I hope you guys have a good evening. I hope you guys take what I have to share, and if it's something new, take it with you and share it with somebody else. If it's something you already knew, that's okay too, because sometimes we need a reminder of what we know, that we forget, and we stray away and we hear it like, oh yes, oh sure, yeah, I remember hearing that, or that's what they said. We come upon those types of epiphanies too. So,